give advice, so here's a poem entitled Advice. Whatever they ask you about, never say, I do not remember. Remember even what you do not remember. I know the thinking. If I say 15 times I do not remember, maybe they'll begin to believe me. Don't count on that. Everybody knows there is always something we forget to forget. True. That may work against you, and you end up saying something that simply seals your fate. But it could be sealed anyway, or might have been sealed long before you opened your mouth. Your true test will be to have your mind bring back even those things you do not want to remember. When you wanted to kill, but didn't have the guts to follow through, which is now equal to the deed done. When you ran away because your reflexes had told you so, but left your mind stuck there. When you realized that becoming a refugee didn't imply there was some refuge somewhere that would exile others from your memory. What matters at the end is that remembering, you're able to imagine things, so reality itself can be endured, if also imagined. Checkpoint. At a checkpoint made of tree trunks and barrels filled with sand, a group of pale bus riders meandering in line depends on one man whose belly will soon have his blouse buttons burst. Am I a Jew? A Muslim? A Catholic? Which one does he want to hate more today? Will my name on the soiled piece of paper confuse him or make him pull me out by my shirt sleeve as if I were a disposable part of the human race? Deemed perhaps to be worthy of living or dying, as my uncle used to say, by the look of my penis? Am I saved or doomed if he suddenly remembers, or I do, that we went to the same high school? As I try to keep my sternomastoids from twitching, my mind from being forced to accept that someone who has no power over life is a bigger coward than someone who does, he positions himself before me, his sourish breath becoming my breath. Do you know if Maria's still there? His words burn on my face like ember. There, meaning in the city, and I feel cold sweat run down my spine. Am I done for if I say yes? Or if I say no, pretend I did or did not recognize him? But he just grins and hands me back my papers, moving to a young woman next to me and motioning with his hand for her to step out, still glancing at me, while I rock back and forth, staring past him, past my life at the jagged line of skeleton trees on the mountain ridge, where the dying daylight still lingers. What are you at?
You're good.
I'm good? Oh, I'm good. How are you? I'm good.
Better and good.
There are some Yiddish words and phrases in this poem, but I'm sure you won't be able to get it. It's entitled Invitation. I like to go to a park and sit on a bench, especially a stone bench, talk with someone who also sits staring at nothing in particular. But people here, when they go to sit in a park, do not like to converse, afraid that the person next to them may suddenly, after a simple question, do you live around here, say, I want you now to give me all your money or I'll rip your fucking heart out. Which is rather absurd. At first, such an ordinary thought is registered, as if intended for someone to open his lonely heart and tell a story about his wife who died of breast cancer. First the left having been removed, destroying a balanced life habit, then the right to even things out, and follow that with the image of a sacrificial offering to gods, while a leopard in the cage feels it could do that more mercifully. My grandfather died on a stone bench, but that's another story already told. An old man sits at the other end, gripping the armrest with both hands as if afraid of his own presence here, while his eyes dart across the roofs of a freight train cars in the distance. I was taken from a park like this, straight to the station. Meine Frau this way, me that way. The park is verboten for us, but it's our Jotto, verstehen Sie? I should not bring her there. That's why I was condemned to live. I tell you this, I see it in your face. You went through something like that. True? That's a shrapnel wound, and I know one. I cover my scar with my left hand and feel the heart pulsate through the satiny skin. You were sacrificed to life, I want to say, remembering one of my lines. Yet I asked him, would you like to have a cup of coffee with me? And he mumbles, still looking straight ahead, I never take anything with me, kein Geld, afraid, but of what? They kill sometimes if we have it or not. I smile, keep silent for a while, staring in the same direction. Through the sparse trees, I navigated blindly and hear the zing of a single bullet penetrate my hand, leaving underneath my lifeline mangled. And I see my grandfather sitting on the roof of one of the boxcars, staring at nothing, his chin resting on his knees as the train carried him back to dying. It's all right, I say. I don't have any money either, but we could still have a cup of coffee. One day, he tells me, a cup of tea I'd prefer. 2 lumps of Susko on the side, just for show. Am I done?
No.
Why not?
You have a few more minutes.
The violin case. Long after he was gone, I found the violin case in his attic cubicle. The small lock on the rusted mesh door gave way without much resistance. The open case in the far corner, illuminated by whirling sun rays that streamed through the skylight, was partly draped by shimmering cobweb, the vermilion velvet lining behind it poised to bewitch any wayward insect. He had played for the Germans to survive. He had played for the Russians to survive. And finally managed to escape down south, although no one knew how, to our town, but he thought he'd play for himself. Unable or unwilling to learn the language, he ended up working as a custodian in a school of music, performing on weekends and village weddings. And then one night, with a violin in one hand and the bow in the other, he marched to the bridge, climbed onto the arched stone beam, and played, people say, until daybreak, when he threw his violin into the murky, rolling waves and jumped. Or, as some miners who gathered there on their way to work claimed, lost his balance when it slipped from his hand. A week later, on a cold winter afternoon, shielded by dusk on my way from school, I went up and took the case, stashing it underneath the bed in my room downstairs. I pressed my mother for several days to buy me a violin, although I knew we had no money for such luxury. In the end, I cleaned the case, tried even some shoe polish on its mahogany lid, and smuggled it one evening under my second-hand coat to the bridge. I pushed it off the frosted iron railing and watched that small child's coughing dance, turning left, turning right, carried by the lazy moonlit waves, until it got swallowed by the night.